When thinking about the future of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, past formats since Crossover Breakers and Supreme Darkness came out, there's a few questions that come into mind when considering what the next ban list should look like. And I've made a few ban list predictions before, and some of what I've called has been right. Some of what Konami has done has been kind of like out there, and some of what I think Konami should do still hasn't been done yet, even to this point. At least in the TCG. The TCG has like a unique way of every ban list kind of has this silver lining to it. Even if you don't like the upcoming format or the previous format, there's always a little silver lining. They kind of throw a little something interesting in there. Do they always deal with the problem directly? No. Being realistic, I think a lot of the problems of this format, whether it be cost, Ryzeal almost being tier 0, right, is something that I think can be addressed with the ban list. Will it be addressed? I'm not sure. Now that we have Mulcharmies, the differences between TCG and OCG in terms of the format is a lot more blurred, and the formats are becoming similar. It's just OCG is still like 2-3 months ahead. So should we just copy what the OCG is doing, and should we just nuke the consistency of Fiendsmith and Ryzeal? Is the question that I want to bring up, and I'm kind of going to discuss it throughout this ban list, because those are going to be the two biggest focuses. Malice is going to be somewhat in there as well. Some of our first few cards are going to be related to Malice, but after that, it's going to be mostly about Fiendsmith and Ryzeal, and other than that, it's going to be about a few cards that they should bring back into the format, which are cards that I think should have come back a long time ago. I digress. Starting with the banned cards, right? Cards that I want to see at 0. A barrier statue. I know water's cool. It's a cool deck. Just take this card out. Do everything you guys are already doing. Just keep doing it, all right? You guys are doing great things. Just take this card out your deck. You guys have more than enough gas to play regular Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't need to floodgate people. Thank you for your service. Moving on. Shifter needs to go. Malice is too strong. This is an auto-win card when resolved against any deck that is not Malice. Or, you know, some obscure fucking rogue deck. People aren't playing Flu anymore. There's a lot of decks in the format that just like do not exist under this card. And unless you open non-engine to wait out the turn, you're pretty much losing if you get shifted. And now it's like people are on Droll now too. If you open Droll, you open Veiler, useless. Meows is great if you see it. Lancea is great if you see it. What if it's game 1? You didn't sight in your Lancea yet. You get shifted. Man, that's rough. Well, is what it is, right? The card's just way too sacky to keep at 3. Realistically, I can see this card going to 1, but this card needs to get hit. It just needs to. And this is why I think this should be the list that deals with Shifter and Fiendsmith at the same time. Because you get rid of the cards that check Fiendsmith, and you get rid of Fiendsmith as well. I don't think they're going to get rid of Fiendsmith entirely, because that may be too extreme, but they can definitely limit what Fiendsmith can do. And we're going to get into that. Next is Magnamut. You don't have to touch any other Bestial if you ban Magnamut. If you ban Magnamut, you don't have to touch anything else. But this card's way too strong with Malice. The existence of I can get to 2 level 6s before I even start my turn is crazy. And the fact that like they get to interrupt you during your Fiendsmith line, and then you get to grab more resources. The fact that in Blue Eyes this can grab the barrel, it just seems a little too strong. I think you can get rid of Magnamut. All the other Bestials are fine. Just get rid of Magnamut. Going into extra deck monsters, Dweller. I think slapping any 2 level 4s together, especially nowadays that rank 4s are starting to become some of the best cards in the game again. Let's simmer this down a bit. Let's give more decks a chance to play the game. As I said, we're gonna get rid of the cards that check Fiendsmith a bit, because lingering effects are not healthy for the game anyway. Just like objectively, lingering effects are not healthy. Continuous effects are fine, negates are fine. Lingering effects I just don't think are healthy for the game. Let's just get rid of them. There's nothing skillful about putting your last 2 monsters together to make a Dweller just because, you know, you had 2 leftover Ryzeals on field. Especially if like you're going first, you have all this setup and you put Dweller on top of that. It's like, fuck you, dude. You don't need all that. You don't even know what to do with all that. All right? I just think we can get rid of this card. And I know this is technically a double hit to water, but like water has double toad. All right, you guys have Bahamut Shark, you'll be fine. Ouroboros. I'm probably going to release this before I release, because I just recorded a Heraldic Beast video about the hand loop and about the other things that the Heraldic Beast engine can do. And I think, although this isn't popping off in OCG, because OCG doesn't really care too much about FTKs, they play more casual over there anyway. Here in TCG, this would fucking dominate, right? The Heraldic Beast FTK doesn't even take that many slots in main deck. It takes like 6 slots in main deck, maybe up to 8 slots. 2 Ouroboros, and 1 of the Heraldry Exceed that activates when milled. So even if Ryzeal gets that consistency hit, 7 Tachyon's going to make up for that lack of consistency, meaning the FTK will still be consistent. Because you have Ascension plus Tachyon, the FTK will still be consistent. Meaning, this should go. Getting rid of 4 to 5 cards from my hand just because you opened Ryzeal X'd or X Ryzeal is way too fucking good. And we should just get rid of this card while we're ahead. They've done that before in TCG. They've gotten rid of Jowgen. They got rid of Curious, the Lightsword Link monster. Although that card was always good. They've gotten rid of a few things, like they banned that Lyreless fusion monster. I don't even remember that format. I'm not even going to pretend to remember why. It's something with the Tyrant Neptune. We need to get rid of this card before it becomes a big issue. Yassine has covered it. Lithium has covered it. They've shown the FTK. I go a little deeper into Ryzeal Heraldic Beast theory, but for the most part, yeah, the FTK is a little too strong. So let's get rid of this card while we still can before it does some real big damage. I know maybe TCG Konami doesn't care about FTKs because they let Gimmick Puppet go wild for like 2 to 3 months before hitting it. I just don't think this should be allowed to stay in. So for the next few cards, I don't think all of these needs to get hit. I think if one of the 2 groups get hit, then it's fine. But you don't need to hit all 3. So bear with me, right? Exciton, Moon, Wave High King Caesar. You don't need to hit all 3 of them. My prediction is Konami is going to look at this list and they're going to say, we have to do one of 2 things. We have to limit how accessible Fiendsmith is, or we have to limit the strength of Fiendsmith. That's where the Exciton Knight and the Moon come in. If they want to get rid of Fiendsmith's accessibility, especially pertaining to Ryzeal, you get rid of these 2 cards. If you want to get rid of Fiendsmith's strength, its ceiling, you get rid of the Caesar. Because now, instead of Caesar, the next best rank 6 would either have to be Lars or it would have to be Goblin's Crazy Beast, which aren't bad rank 6s. Those are pretty good cards. They're nowhere near as strong as Caesar, right? Neither of them beat a Nibiru, first off. Although Crazy Beast can play through Nibiru, it's nowhere near as strong. So I think by limiting either the strength or the accessibility of Fiendsmith, you can make this a lot better, right? So even like Exciton Knight being able to board wipe and then go Fiendsmith line, a little crazy, just a little, right? And then Moon, Nightmare Mermaid got banned for less. The Nightmare Mermaid couldn't do half of what this card does. It was still hit in its format. I know that was however many years ago, what like 2019 when Orcus was full power. I mean, we've already repeated history, but let's not keep it this way. Let's have a little sense, right? Now, they could just hit Requiem to stop all these from accessing the Fiendsmith engine. And honestly, that would make more sense. Like, I was half expecting, because that's what they did with Sinful Spoils. I was half expecting them to either limit Diabell Star, limit Wanted, limit all this stuff, and then just to make the original Sinful Spoils less consistent. Or we could leave all that alone and just hit the one card that gives you access to everything. So now there are no more 1-card combo lines with some of this stuff. Now it's like it requires extra resources on top of what you can already do. I don't believe they're gonna hit Requiem this early. They could. I mean, they did that to Lacrima. Shit, Lacrima had like 10 seconds and then that nigga was gone. I don't know. I feel like this is the most balanced way to hit this engine without taking it out of the meta. Obviously, less people would play it if you take out the Exciton Knight and the Moon. Like, Exciton Knight's only here because of Ryzeal, essentially. This is like a scapegoat hit. This is like when they hit Olion and Jet Synchron instead of hitting Crystron Halka-Fibrax. Like, they were slowly hitting the best tuners, and then they hit Halka-Fibrax, and then they bring those tuners back. They might do the same thing. They might make some scapegoat hits along the way to weaken... This would even really weaken Ryzeal. This is whatever, right? We have Mitsurugi still, and we're about to get some Tachyon, so who cares? This would quote-unquote weaken Ryzeal's ability to play through certain things and to do certain things. So I think it may be something that they may want to do. I don't think Exciton Knight is bannable altogether. If you imperm it, that's it, right? It's once per chain, so it can't like double stack its effect like a Zeus can. Like, this card doesn't need to stay banned, but if they do hit it, it's because they are trying to limit what Ryzeal can do. It makes more sense to hit Moon, but I think this should be hittable just because of Ryzeal. Wave High or Moon plus Exciton. Accessibility or power. No more Caesar plus Paradise. Let's not do that. And this is someone whose deck benefits off of how easy it is to access Fiendsmith. I have skin in the game here. Okay, I'm putting my own deck on the line here for this stuff. I'm looking objectively at the meta. Before this past format, before Blue Eyes came out, actually, Fiendsmith was in 50% of all lists. Blue Eyes cut that down to about 30-something% of all decks to top have Fiendsmith in them, which I just don't think is healthy. Like, some of this shit needs to go. But yeah. Here comes the big one. So here come our limits. This shouldn't surprise anyone because we're talking about nuking Fiendsmith, right? So Engraver. It's like, do you really need to hit Moon and limit Engraver? Yes. Yes, I do think you should. Because I don't mind Cleansmith builds. I like Cleansmith builds. I don't think you need to get rid of the Fiendsmith engine entirely. Again, this is why I think Requiem is fine. If you already have access to a light Fiend monster, I think it's fine. I don't think access to the Fiendsmith engine itself is the issue. I think it's you being able to use any two monsters that's the issue. But if you have a light Fiend in your engine, I feel like you should still be able to access the Fiendsmith stuff, like Valmonica. I don't want to take away Fiendsmith from them. I don't want to take away Fiendsmith from Magical Musketeer, right? From Fabled. I just want to stop Fiendsmith from being this just like over prevalent fucking graveyard resource pool that you just get to constantly pull from every turn. It just feels a little too free. So we just limit how many engravers people can have, right? Now, I know Magnum in my world would get banned, but any Bestial gets this out of rotation, and now they have to play the new fusion, the Rex Tremend, to be able to recycle their engraver. Or they have to play some engine piece that recycles banished cards to be able to access their engraver again, because engraver is really good and it's a little too good. So, and with Lacrima banned, we're not like we cannot touch our banished light fiends. Like, you'd have to play some like Bestial Dispatter or something to get access to your engraver again, which is just, I don't know. People may want to compensate with more tracked, or they may move on to a card like Sanctus. Now, here's the thing about Sanctus. Sanctus is not a one-card Desiree, because you get a token. Token goes into Requiem. Requiem goes into Lacrima. Lacrima mill Engraver, right? And this is assuming that you're only on one Engraver. Like, if you open Engraver, like the one Engraver, Sanctus can be a way to play through Droll, and you still get a rank 6 plus Paradise, because instead of needing to mill your Engraver, now you can mill Paradise as the last card since Engraver's at 1. But you wouldn't be able to keep Lacrima plus Requiem in graveyard if you start with Sanctus, because you'd only have the 3 monsters, and then once you send 2 of them to go into Necroquip, you have to shuffle either the Requiem or the Lacrima back to summon back the Engraver, meaning there's really no way for you to get the Link monster for your opponent's turn using this line. And even if you wanted to go sequence, it's like it's still not going to work. Now, Sanctus really is just rank 6, so it's not Desiree, it's just rank 6. If you open Engraver, it's rank 6 plus Paradise. If you don't open Engraver, then it's just rank 6. If Caesar is the one that gets hit, and not, Moon plus Exciton Knight, the only limit from this is that you could only attack with Fiend monsters. So if you have something like go into something like Goblin's Crazy Beast can attack, go into Zeus, and then still, you can still have follow-up plays with that. It's better playing into Droll, since Droll I think is going to be a lot stronger once 7 Tachyon comes out, but it's also not as good it's not as strong of a setup compared to like Tract. Now there's another card that Sanct can make, Desiree, but it can make your fusions that only require 2 monsters, and Aerial Leader is one of them. Aerial Leader, I'm gonna be real, this is one of the best fucking fusions in the game. Like, milling a Fiend monster for free, which I know doesn't always have the most amount of utility dependent on the format, but I just think it's way too fucking good to just like leave unchecked. Like, if we leave this unchecked, we're going to have to limit all the potential power of future Fiend decks to keep this card around, right? Because milling any Fiend monster essentially for free without using your normal summon, kind of crazy. Now, I know Ubel abused the hell out of this. Unchained, kind of abused this. Goblin Biker uses this. Memento doesn't need to use it because they have Berfomet. You take all those factors together, and it's like, yeah, this is one of the best fusions in the game. But post-Maze, right? So this is what I'm really worried about, is the Duke of Demise, right? And Duke of Demise is just 2 Fiends, extra normal summon. Is extra normal summons really a big deal in modern Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure what the implication of a second normal summon for any archetype would mean in 2025, but I think it would be kind of crazy. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure what exactly this nets you, but if you don't hit Fiendsmith that significantly now, this card can be a problem in the future. Even if it's not a problem in this format, it can be a problem in future formats. And I think that's something that we should think about when considering what should get hit this list. This is why I think nuking Fiendsmith now, it doesn't make these cards unplayable or inaccessible. It just makes them harder to play, right? Like now you're not getting this every single hand, right? Imagine like you draw Ryzeal so they can't search anymore, but then they go into something like this to where now they still just get their extra normal summon, so they're still able to go like essentially it just makes their draw worthless. I'm a little scared of the implications of a second normal summon, and the fact that essentially any deck can access this if Moon stays around is a little too dumb to me. Like, I'm sorry, we need to do something about Fiendsmith, like, right now. Again, 50% of all lists at top before Blue Eyes came out. Post Blue Eyes, it's about 30%. And I don't know. I'm just not feeling like Duke of Demise is something that should be allowed to stick around, or should be allowed to be as accessible as the rest of the Fiendsmith package. So I feel like something needs to get done. So, you know how I said every other Bestial can stay if you get rid of Magnamut? Lubellion can stick around. He doesn't have to go completely. He can stick around. I just think he's also a little too strong. Regained is a stupid card, and I know he's not a one card setup. Like you don't just like Lubellion and banish Lubellion, summon a Bestial, right? Because that's a little minus. You could in a deck like Malice, that could be, you know, pretty good. But I just think this engine is just way too good to keep. Like, I think the consistency hit to this engine would be a good thing, because I just think getting the Lubellion out of rotation should be enough. I don't think you should have to worry about this stuff after you get it out of rotation once. That's my personal belief. Honestly, whether this happens or whether this doesn't happen, I kind of don't hold any weight into it because I don't really care that much. But I feel like, you know, hitting the graveyard is both a good and a bad thing, and I feel like we should kind of give it a little more respect, right? Like, if you're maxing out on Druis Worm, Baldrake, by all means, you know, you're gonna hit the graveyard. But I feel like if you're just playing Lubellion and a few Bestials, you go first, you set up your Lubellion, and you get your full line and regained, it's a little much, right? It's a little too splashable. So let's just tone it down a bit. Let's, you know, keep it sane, right? And you know, talking about nuking Ryzeal again, Bonfire to 1, right? Ashen players can still play Dark Souls, all right? I know you Dark Souls players like a challenge, and we're getting that new Searcher spell in Alliance Insight, so you guys should be fine. Like, Vados is Vados plus Field Spell is full combo anyway, so Bonfire isn't that important. I mean, to get your Priestess, I guess, but there aren't enough Ashen cards. Like, all the other level 4 lower Ashen cards don't do anything significant. It's really only King, Priestess, and Hero that's your core. The other two are just like kind of just there. So yeah, I mean, Ashen will be fine. Fuck else. No, first off, Volcanic is a burn deck. Burn decks, we don't respect burn decks. Like, I respect Volcanic as like an archetype. I don't respect burn decks, right? Like, if you're gonna sit here and tell me that your burn FTK is less consistent because Bonfire's at 1, I'm not gonna care. If you tell me Volcanic is unplayable because Bonfire's at 1, I'm gonna be like, maybe I'll care a little bit, but otherwise I'm not gonna care. Centurion doesn't need to play three Bonfire anyway. Centurion will be fine. Yeah, so I think that's about everything. And yeah, this and 7 Tachyon in the same format would be diabolical. But that would keep 7 Tachyon's price low, because then 7 Tachyon wouldn't be necessary to play. So because not everyone's going to be on it, maybe it's going to keep the price low for a little bit. But if this card should get hit eventually. As long as Ryzeal exists, this card needs to be at 1. If Rhoda's at 1, this needs to be at 1. All right, so now moving on to cards that should come back, because that's pretty much all the cards I think should get hit. That's everything I think that should be addressed. other than Blue Eyes, but Blue Eyes just came out, and other than the only card in the Blue Eyes engine I would even want to touch is Drill Beam. Everything else I think is fairly like just let them have their fun. That's the way I'll talk about Blue Eyes. I'll let Blue Eyes players have their fun, and we'll see what that's like. We'll see how well they do into YCSs, and then we'll regroup later on. But Drill Beam to me is the most stupid card. It's the only stupid card in the Blue Eyes engine that I think needs to go. And maybe Crimson Dragon, but we can talk about it. But Crimson Dragon is like, when they're playing Crimson Dragon, they're playing into Nibiru. So it kind of hurts their... So if they're not respecting Nibiru, then they get punished. So that's why I think Drill Beam's the only thing that needs... Because that'll hit all Blue Eyes decks equally. Well, and not even the budget Blue Eyes decks. That'll hit all the, Primite Blue Eyes decks equally. And that'll make Primite be able to stick around for longer because you hit the, the best interruption card in the engine. All right, Invoker needs to come back. I don't need to explain why this card needs to come back already, but there's no reason this card should stay on the list. What are you scared of? Zodiac? Six Samurai? What? Argo Star? What the fuck are you scared of with Invoker coming back? Who cares? All right, it fucking Dominus Impulse this thing or something. Ash Blossom. There's so many ways. Imperm, Valor, everything. Just slap everything on this card, because clearly it's going to be a card that if it resolves is way too good. If it doesn't resolve, who cares? Trident. Detonator has committed more sins than Trident has by this point. Detonator's a way better card by a mile. I know with Eclipse Twins and all this and that, Zodiac, Ryzeal could be a deck. Sure. I'm willing to take that risk. I just, maybe because we've hit Ryzeal enough to where I think, okay, sure, bring back the Zodiacs. Like, if Ryzeal was at full power, I'd say, okay, maybe not. But, like, I was still advocating for Trident last list, too, so... Or I was going to before my, the ban list came out before my prediction could come out, so... Yeah, that's why I'm doing this one a little early. So, yeah, I think Trident can come back. If we're going to hit Ryzeal this hard, Trident can come back. Scarecrow. Super Heavy is now a weaker White Forest. White Forest is now superior to Super Heavy. Full power Super Heavy Samurai was like a better Manadium. Super Heavy Samurai got hit, now Manadium was the best synchro deck. And then you hit Baron and Borreload, now Manadium really isn't, can't really do much. And now White Forest has kind of taken its place. Six Samurai can kind of do the same thing White Forest can do, except Six Samurai, you gotta play way more bricks, and you can't really play a lot of non-engine. So yeah, just like, and Super Heavy Samurai isn't even as good as Six Samurai. It's a good, like, starter engine, but the fact that, like, I can't use Dominuses, Molcharmies exist, great, but being limited on what interruptions or what board breakers I can use is really big. Sure, Lava Golem is a card, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I'd be getting enough off of just Super Heavy as it is now. I feel like I need a little more with Scarecrow and some other engine pieces, so we can bring back Scarecrow to 1. I feel like that'll be fine. And Clockwork Knight also does not work with Super Heavy, because what continuous spells are you playing, right? Like, you're not playing any. And it also can't revive Soul Piercer because it only revives monsters with 1,000 or less attack. So Soul Piercer has 1,200. So you can't link off Soul Piercer for Clockwork Knight, and you can't revive Soul Piercer. So it's not looping 2 more searches into the turn. So I think Scarecrow and Clockwork Knight can coexist, and I will stick to that opinion. Miamu, I don't know why this is still on the list. OCG and Master Duel have shown this card isn't really that dangerous, so it seems weird. Electromite, again, Pendulums have gotten shafted. And now, guess what? One of the best cards in the format is Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, which essentially does not let you Pendulum summon. You cannot summon 2 or more monsters at the same time, right? Pendulums are catching strays as long as Blue Eyes is meta. Just let them have their Electromite back, all right? The Pendulums haven't gotten legitimate support recently. The only support they're getting is in this new Perform Mage stuff. And that stuff it's not gonna break the game or anything. Just give them more fucking support so that you can sell more copies of some of this shit, alright? Like, let's not, keep this shit on there, alright? And Summon Sorceress, it has an errata. You summon a monster to your opponent's side of the field. I get it. But I think with the errata, this card's good. Just release this card in Stampede. And this is what I was gonna say. Like, they could have released a card in Bonanza. I believe I predicted that for the September ban list, right? Release this card in Bonanza with the errata, and then, bring it back to 1 or something, right? So just say, hey, Summon Sorceress, legal to play April, whatever, whenever the hell Stampede comes out. and boom, you're good. You're Gucci. Barrage, you can bring this up to 3. Who cares? It's summon from deck from Zodiac. It's like Zodiac without this card is one of the slowest decks in existence. Like without Tri Brigade, which you're not going to be playing Tri Brigade Zodiac. You're going to be playing Ryzeal Zodiac. Without Tri Brigade, this card's fine. Look, if you want to keep this card at 1, but then if that's what you need to bring back Dryden, I'm cool with that too. But if you're gonna keep Dryden banned, just bring this card back up to 3, because who cares? It's just a free level 4 monster that I have to play multiple bricks. And the level 4 monster is probably a brick as well, unless it's like Whiptail. And even then, Whiptail's a brick. I think this card can come back to 3. And although I know it's not going to get hit, but should probably get hit, is Dimensional Barrier. Now, Malice has made this card irrelevant. Ironically, this card doesn't do enough against Blue Eyes, because if you call Synchro, then they just go Wishes, make Tyrant, and they have Link monsters as well. Because Spirit isn't that essential to their like combo line. Like if you think about it, Spirit's just like a body for the opponent's turn. It's not essential for them during their turn. During their turn, fusions are the stronger, would probably be the stronger thing. Like fusions and Link monsters are what they're really working with, and then they leave Spirit on the field for your turn, not for their turn. But yeah, I do think like I'm always so like just annoyed with this card, because I do feel like, yes, although decks are kind of like branching out now, there aren't a lot of decks that are just one thing anymore, unless you're on like pure Ryzeal. But the fact that this card hits certain decks more than it hits some others, I don't know. I think, you know, we should do something about this. Some people would say Metaltronus should get hit. I think Metaltronus is fine. Like to me, Metaltronus is like a more balanced Winter Cherries, or like a better balanced Winter Cherries, to where it's not breaking the game, but it still does enough to where it can stop the opponent from, you know, doing what they have to do. So I think throughout this entire ban list prediction, I've made a few stretches of like what I think is maybe the issues of the format. I don't believe I'm wrong, but I don't believe Konami will see all those things as issues. That's what I'm trying to say. Like what I see, or all the issues I personally see, I don't think Konami believes all those are issues. So I'm not sure how Konami is going to respond, what they're going to hit. For example, people asking Lancia to get hit are smoking. You're smoking if you think Lancia needs to get... If you think Lancia needs to get touched, you're smoking. I don't care if you have 2-3 cards in your engine that banish something, alright? I really do not care. Lancia is not a problem card at all. I understand lingering effects a little too strong, cutting people out of game mechanics a little too strong. Most decks do not banish. Most decks. Like, okay, cool, I get to Lancia stop a Chainlink 2 SP, or Chainlink 3 SP, so I stop both of SP's effects. Or Lancia, I get to stop it evenly matched. That's Lancia's utility outside of dueling against Malice. Oh sure, like if you face the hero player at locals, you'll stop them from using Mali. Wow, man, that's such a bannable card. Like, come on, let's be a little more realistic here. I mean, sure, you can stop Drill Beam. Is it bannable to be able to interact with Drill Beam? I guess, I don't know. Like, can someone who's not a Malice player give me a single reason why Lancia needs to get hit? That is my question. I, as a Goblin Biker player, have to deal with D-Barrier, you have to deal with Lancia. I'm sorry. This is just certain things where we just need to make some kind of concession or something. Like, I need to deal with a card that beats my entire engine, you need to deal with a card that beats your entire engine. Alright? So, that'll be all for me. This has been your boy Nistro here. Let me know if you guys have any other changes, anything you think I missed, anything else you would add, and anything else you think should be, or anything else, any other problems you guys have with the format, whether it be the cost, the accessibility, just the, you know, the decks themselves, and yeah. I'll be posting a few combo videos. One you should be expecting, the Heraldic Beast, which I mentioned. Another one you may not be expecting. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.